In this topic, we will discuss about the predicate. Predicate is a very important part in the English grammar and it is used to identify the action of the subject. The definition of the predicate. Sentences must always include both a subject and a predicate. The subject is the noun, a person, place, or thing that performs, controls, or is responsible for the action of the verb. The predicate is essentially everything in the sentences that follows the subject. It is made up of at least one finite verb, the action of which is performed by the subject. In addition, the predicate may but also include participles, which are used to form the perfect and continuous tenses. Direct and indirect objects if the verb is transitive. Other complements which include object complements, adjective complements and subject complements, and modifiers if they are not a part of the subject. First, let us look at how we can identify the predicate in a clause or sentence. Later on, we will look more closely at the very parts of the predicate. Now, identifying the predicate. In most cases, the predicate comes after the subject in a sentence or clause. It is possible in simple sentence to have only a subject followed by a finite verb, a verb that has a relationship with subject and can inflect for grammatical tense. For example, now we will see some examples of the predicate. I refuse, dogs bark, bees sting, cats meow. Now you can see in the above example the subject begins the sentences and the predicate in bold and stem. The predicate made up of just an intransitive verb in the present simple tense contains all the necessary information about the subject to be logical. Therefore, each example is considered an independent clause and is a complete sentence. No, I refuse, I deny. It is a complete sentence. We do not need anything more to complete this sentence. However, it is much more common for the predicate to contain much more information than just a verb. Let us look at an example of a sentence with more complex predicate. Example sentence. My family loves going to the beach each summer. No, loves transitive infinite verb in the present simple sentence. You can see. Going to the beach. Going to the beach. Gerund phrase acting as the direct object of the verb loves. Okay. Going to the beach. No, each summer. Adverbial phrase modifying the verb phrase loves going to the beach. No, because every element after the subject my family is related to the verb. No, loves the entire phrase loves going to the beach each summer is considered the predicate. Okay. after the subject. Note the adverbs, which can be single words, adverbial phrases, or even adverbial clause that modify elements of the predicate do not always appear after the subject. It is quite common for certain adverbs to appear at the beginning of a sentence to add emphasis to the information, as for example, in school we are learning about the American Revolution. No, in school, adverbial prepositional phrase acting as a modifier of the present participle learning. Okay, mean in preposition school noun it becomes prepositional phrase. Finite auxiliary verb used with the present participle are learning to create the present continuous tense, learning present participle, a type of non-finite verb used with the auxiliary verb, or to form the present continuous tense. Okay, mean learning used with the finite auxiliary verb are. About the American Revolution, prepositional phrase functioning as the direct object of the present participle learning. Notice that the adverbial preposition phrase in school is still part of the predicate, even though it appears at the beginning of the sentence before the subject. This is because it modifies the participle learning, which is part of the predicate. No, you can see in school. Okay, it is also a part of predicate, but it is used before subject verb. But there is no matter. It is part of the predicate. Okay. Now, compound predicates. The subject of a clause or sentence must always be performing at least one action. But there are many instances in which it performs more than one action. In such case in which the subject is related to two or more finite verbs, the sentence is said to have a compound predicate. A predicate composed of one verb is sometimes known as a simple predicate. We usually use coordinating conjunctions to link the verbs in a compound predicate. If there are more than two predicate elements, we separate them with commas and use conjunction before final one. For example, there are some examples. No, example. I live in New Jersey, but work in New York City. We use conjunction. Live in New York City, work in New York City. Connected by the coordinating conjunction but. They both have the same subject I, as I is used. Okay. I live in New Jersey but work in New York City. Okay. After but, we did not use any subject, so it is a common subject for two parts. Now we'll see another example. My friend Daniel teaches in the morning, volunteers in the afternoon, and plays volleyball in the evening. Okay. Teaches in the morning, volunteers in afternoon, plays volleyball in the evening. Connected by commas and the coordinating conjunction and. They all have the same subject, my friend Daniel. You can see here we put comma and next comma and then conjunction and. We used comma and as well as conjunction and. No, Compound subjects. Compound subjects, just as the same subject may have multiple compound predicates, the same predicate may have multiple compound subjects. In the same way, we join multiple subjects with coordinating conjunction, and if there are more than two subjects, commas, for example, my brother and I go to fishing on the weekends. John, Mary, and Joy went to school together. Here we use commas and we use conjunction and. Compound predicates less compound sentences. It is important to distinguish a compound predicate from a compound sentence. A compound sentence is made up of two independent clauses connected by a coordinating conjunction. Each clause has its own subject even if the subjects relate to the same person or thing. There is a different predicate for each subject. For example, John studies at Harvard, but he also works as a mechanic on the weekend. No, this is a compound sentence which has two independent clauses with the two subjects, John and he. Even though they talk about the same person, each subject has its own unique predicate. It is not a compound predicate or a compound subject. No complex sentences. Complex sentences are composed of an independent clause or one or more dependent clauses. Each clause, a complex sentence has a subject. And again, each subject has its own predicate. For instance, when my father is at home on the weekend, the whole family always goes to a movie together. The dependent clause has the subject my father, and the predicate is home on the weekend. The dependent clause is linked to the independent clause by the subordinating conjunction when. When can also be considered part of the dependent clause predicate. The subject of the independent clause is the whole family. The predicate is always go to a movie together. Sentences can become increasingly complex with multiple independent clauses and multiple dependent clauses. Just remember that for every clause with its own subject, there must be at least one corresponding predicate as well. Now we will discuss parts of the predicate. We have seen where to look to identify the predicate in a sentence. Now let us look more closely at the different elements that can be a part of the predicate. Finite vs non-finite verbs. When we are identifying the predicate in a sentence, we usually look for finite verb that acts as the root of the sentence. The only verbs that can be considered finite are verbs in their base form, the infinitive form without the participle to, verbs in their past tense form, or verbs inflected for the third person singular. The verb be unique among verbs also has unique forms to reflect plurality, multiple subjects, as well as first person, the second person, and third person. Let us look at the example from the above. In school, we are learning about the American Revolution. No, the sentence uses the present continuous verb learning. This largely functions as a single unit with learning carrying the most meaning in the sentence. Our learning is a present participle which is considered a non-finite verb. The finite verb of the sentence is actually just the auxiliary verb are. It is an inflection of the verb be that denotes a first person plural. Verb forms that are never considered to be finite verbs in a sentence are gerunds, infinitives, and participles, both past and present. Here are a few example sentences to illustrate the differences with finite verbs in bold and non-finite verbs in italics. We hate we hate working on the farm. Finite verb hate present simple tense first person plural. Joe ran quickly to catch his bus. Finite verb run past participle past simple tense third person singular. Non-finite verb to catch infinitive. No. Susie lives in New York City. Finite verb lives present simple tense third person singular. Non-finite verb noun. Mean in this sentence we have no any non-finite verb. They were being very difficult. No finite verb were okay past simple tense third person plural. Non-finite verb being present participle. Being is a non-finite verb. We have seen that movie already. Finite verbs have present simple tense first person plural. Non-finite verb is a scene. It is past participle. Note that gerunds and infinitives are able to function as nouns. So it is possible for them to be the subject of a clause rather than part of the predicate. If they appear before the finite verb in a sentence, they are usually acting as the subject. For example, working all week makes me so tired. To err is human. No, you can see to err. To err add with a verb, so it becomes a subject. To learn more about the differences between these two classes of verbs, go to the section finite and non-finite verbs in the chapter dealing with that issue. So we will discuss objects of verbs. Grammatical objects are nouns or pronouns that complete the meaning of verbs or prepositions. The objects of verbs tell us how or what is receiving the action of the verb. They are technically a kind of complement, sometimes known as verb complement. However, because they are often so important to structure of the predicate, they are usually described as a unique, separate part of it. The object of a verb can either be a direct object, meaning it directly receives the action of the verb, or it can be an indirect object, meaning it receives the direct object of the verb. Note that only transitive verbs take objects. Direct objects are directly affected by the verbs they complete. That is the verb action is happening directly to them. For example, the dog chased its tail. The object its tail is receiving the action of the verb chase. Mary reads a new book every week. The object a new book is receiving the action of the verb read. I asked Jonathan on a date. No, the object Jonathan is receiving the action of the verb asked. Indirect objects. An indirect object, on the other hand, is a person or thing or receives the direct object of the verb. Indirect objects appear directly between the verb and its direct object. For example, please pass me the salt. No, the pronoun me is receiving the direct object, the salt, which receives the action of the verb pass. You can say, please pass me the salt. Okay. I sent the company an application for the job. The noun phrase the company is receiving the direct object and application which receives the action of the verb sent. No complements. Complements are words or groups of words that are necessary to complete the meaning of another part of the sentence. Unlike modifiers, they do not add supplemental information. They provide information that is necessary to achieve the intended meaning in the sentence. In addition to objects, there are four other types of complements: object complements, adjective complements, adverbial complements, and subjective subject complements. We will look on these examples step by step. Object complements. An object complement is a word or group of words that describes, renames, or completes the direct object of the verb. It can be a noun, adjective, relative clause, infinitive, or gerund. For example, the committee elected him treasurer. The noun treasurer renames the object him. All he wanted was to make his house husband happy. No, the adjective happy describes the object his husband. Do you know someone who can work the printer? No, it is the relative clause who can work the printer describes the object someone. No, above the example. All he wanted was to make his husband happy. No, here the object is his husband. No, another example. I did not expect you to approve. The infinitive to approve describes a potential action of the object. Because it is connect expect you mean it is concerned with the object. We came across him lying in the yard. The gerund phrase lying in the yard it describes the action of the object him. No adjective complements. An adjective complement is a phrase or clause that provides information necessary to complete an adjective's meaning. Adjective complements almost always appear with predicative adjectives. Adjectives that appear after linking verbs and can be prepositional phrases, infinitives and infinitive phrases, or noun clauses. For example, I am perfectly content on my own. The propositional phrase on my own completes the meaning of the adjective content. Now another example, we are just glad to be of service. The infinitive phrase to be of service complete the meaning of the adjective glad. No, we were a little curious why they decided to leave. The noun clause why they decided to leave complete the meaning of the adjectives curious. No, the another example is and kind is adverbial complements. Adverbial complements are adverbs or adverbial elements that are required to complete the meaning of the verb. They always appear after the verb they complement. For example, the teacher sent Tim home. The adverbial noun home completes the meaning of the verb sent. Okay. The teacher sent Tim. They sent home. So it clears the meaning of the sentence. Please put the book on the shelf. The adverb prepositional phrase on the shelf complete the meaning of the verb put. Now, subject complements. A subject complement is the information that follows a linking verb to describe, identify, or rename the subject of the clause. Subject complements can be nouns, pronouns, or adjectives. Even though they modify the subject, they are dependent on the verb of the clause and those are part of the predicate. Now, for examples, love is a virtue. The noun phrase a virtue renames the subject love. No, her husband took all the credit, but it was she who did all the works. No, the pronoun she re-identifies the subject it. You look nice. The adjective nice describes the subject you. So, no modifiers. Modifiers are adjectives and adverbs that describe, modify another part of the sentence. They can appear as part of either the subject or the predicate, depending on what they are modifying. Both adjectives and adverbs can be made into phrases or clauses, which function as a whole unit to modify a word or group of words. You can see below the some examples of modifiers. No, Jonathan always brings his favorite toy to school. So, always adverb, favorite adjective, to school adverbial prepositional phrase. No, to is preposition, so it become adverbial phrase, adverbial prepositional phrase, favorite adjective. No, the verb brings, the noun toy, the verb the brings. No, we will see another example. I work in a restaurant that is often busy. In a restaurant, it is a adverbial prepositional phrase. Often adverb, often busy predicated adjective phrase. That is often busy. Relative clause, also called an adjective clause. So it is the adverb work, the adjective busy, the subject pronoun that, the pronoun restaurant. No, the noun restaurant. Sorry, noun is restaurant. Now another example. So we took the bright orange painting in the living room of the wall. Now bright is adverb. Bright orange adjective phrase. In the living room adjective prepositional phrase of the wall adverb prepositional phrase. So it was the whole and complete lecture. I hope you would like it. Thank you.